Biochemical engineering was used against us to make food super addictive in all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, they even print it right on the bag. You can't eat just one. I haven't had a Dorito chip in probably 15 years, but I could describe what they taste like because they're good. It's an addictive formula. Like they're trying to get us hooked. This is why RJ Reynolds and Philip Morris specifically bought snack food companies because they got caught making cigarettes addictive. So now they'll just make food addictive.
Yes.
A lot more people eat food than smoke cigarettes. So it seemed like a better business model. So if biochemical engineering got us here, maybe biochemical engineering can get us out. Hi, my name is John Jaquish. I'm a doctor of biomedical engineering, and it gives me a unique perspective on all things human physiology, nutrition, sports performance. I deal with a lot of professional athletes, and my favorite thing to talk about and educate people on is those people who do not respond well to regular weight training, which is almost everybody. So today I have Mr. America with me, Mr. America Hart. That's the name of his channel. If you want to look him up and follow him and subscribe, which I recommend. So John Hart, he was Natural Mr. America and Natural Mr. Universe because there was a period of time where both of those contests were drug tested. That's true, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, doctor. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Great to see you.
Yes.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about probably one of the most important and misunderstood characters in the history of sports performance, Mike Mentzer. And there is no one on earth who is more qualified to speak about Mike than John Hart.
Wow. That's a big title right there, man. The whole earth.
Well, I mean, just explain your connection to Mike.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so the brief, I'll get in under a minute right here, okay?
All right.
Originally, I started working out in the mid-'80s, and I'm now 60 years young, but I started in the mid-'80s, and I started out on Mike Mentzer's heavy-duty training booklets that he had out at the time. He was a popular pro bodybuilder, and at that point in time, I started out training on Mike Mentzer's heavy-duty training system. I lived in New York. I grew up in New York. Eventually, I moved out to Southern California. And in doing so, I ended up moving to Playa del Rey. At some point, I saw Mike Mentzer was training clients. It had a phone number at the end of the article. I picked up the phone. I dialed it up, left a message. The man called me back. Boom. Next thing you know, he's training me. And that went on all through the 90s. And as it happens, we lived 5 houses from each other in Playa del Rey. His condo was 5 houses away from me. So, interesting, right? That we had all these coincidences going on.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah.
Right. So I got to spend quite a bit of time with him, both in business as well as personal. I'd walk down 5 houses and, plop myself in his living room. And yes, I would. I'd just open the fridge and eat whatever I wanted. And, he'd cook up John, let's stay a little later. Come on, you don't have to go yet. And he'd cook up a big steak or chicken or something and we'd eat. But he trained me off and on. And then in 2001, he passed on, triple heart attack. And when he left, so I had been training hard through all that time, using his heavy duty, high intensity training principles and system. And when he left, Joanne Sharkey was his sole inheritor. She was a big sister to him. And when she inherited everything, she took over everything Mike Mentzer, everything heavy duty, the website, the products, the intellectual properties. And her legacy or her purpose in life at that point was to promote his legacy. And that's what her mission was. Initially, after he passed on, she hired another man to handle his online consultations, and he did so for a few years. Then after 7 or 8 years of that, she picked up the phone, called me up and said, John, would you mind doing this for me? And for the next 12 years, all the way up until her death in 2021, I handled all of the online and phone consultations for MikeMentzer.com and Heavy Duty and Joanne for that matter. So I have all the emails to prove it going back a decade and a half at this point. So
incredible experience.
Very much so. And so not only did I learn from Mike Mentzer, but I also knew his works inside and out. They literally were, prior to me becoming a Christian, they were my Bible. So heavy duty 1, heavy duty 2, they were my Bible. And so I studied his works. I enjoyed rather listening to him over and over again with regards to training. He would train me again, socially. We'd hang out together. We became friends. Over time, it became sort of like the student taking over where the master left off in a way. And now, in looking back, Dr. John, we've discussed this, off camera quite a bit, but I do, want to let the listener or the viewer know that in no way did I ever, and have I ever tried or attempted to say I'm in any way better than or smarter than anything that Mike ever did. Mike didn't have the advantages that we have today. The advantages of an additional 24, 25 years of research. As a matter of fact, Mike had little to none to go on. He had everything that Arthur Jones had done, right? And he had everything that a handful of researchers kind of,
There wasn't much.
There wasn't much. You would know better than I, Dr. John, exactly who they were and what they did. Mm-hmm. But their research was pretty weak, and we see that today, that there's been so much more done. And a lot of what Mike did has been proven right. A lot of what he did has been proven wrong. And I state this today. And again, I do so from a point of, look, I don't deny the research. Okay. If it's been proven, it's been proven. And a lot of it, intuitively, we knew it back in the 90s, and then even going into the 2000s. Even when I was teaching the heavy duty, the high intensity customers for Joanne, even at that time, I was able to sort of discern a lot of the things that didn't work versus what did work. It was the why. I didn't know the why yet of why certain things didn't work versus why some did. He had a certain routine at one point in time. There just wasn't enough frequency involved, So like we talked about, right?
Yeah,
protein synthesis, poof, it's over. And what are you waiting 2 weeks to work out again? There's nothing going on. You're detraining the whole time.
Basically, that's the one big thing that nobody knew.
Right.
Nobody knew the answer. How long does it take for the body to complete muscle protein synthesis?
Yes.
He thought it was 2 weeks. Now, I've got an interesting piece of information I have not even shared with you.
Oh, come on. Bring it on.
Which is, in a theory, I have a study that I want to talk about, but when we look at the sort of the radioisotope nuclear testing of bone mass.
Oh, yeah.
Primary mineralization of bone takes 5 to 10 days. Secondary mineralization of bone takes 120 days. This is from one instance of osteogenic loading, one episode of introducing a stress to the bone mass that is significant enough, primarily talking about the lower extremities, but this is true of all bone. It's easier seen in the lower extremities because they accept more force. The minimum dose response for triggering growth in the bone is 4.2 multiples of body weight.
Wow.
Which is, by the way, bigger than the world record squat.
Yeah, you're not going to go and lift a barbell off the ground.
Right. I mean, like Matt Winning, he held the record for a bit. He's a friend of mine, trained at Westside Barbell, and he, at 300 pounds of body weight, he squatted 1,200 pounds, which is 4 times his body weight.
Right.
Which is still not 4.2.
No, it's not.
So literally, one of the strongest people on earth
still isn't there.
Build bone density with weights.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Mentzer wasn't wrong about the body taking a long time to recover from certain things. It was just muscle's not one of them, because muscle has a faster metabolic rate than bone. And I mean, is it possible that neural inhibitory signals happen? They always happen with very heavy loading, because that's how we moderate. That's why we don't contract muscles to the point of just fracturing our own bone. You can't squeeze a fist hard enough to break your own finger. Right. Do you have the strength to break your own finger? Yeah, actually you do.
And inhibition stops it.
Yeah, your own neural inhibition stops it. Yeah. It's was he wrong? Okay, maybe. Right. But the logic was very sound.
So I'm glad you put it that way. Was he wrong? Maybe, but the logic was very sound. The logic in the absence of hard research. All he had was logic. Okay. We talked about how Arthur Jones historically contributed certain things to high intensity training and to growing muscle. Okay. Yeah. Mike Mentzer's contribution was carrying on where Arthur left off, taking what he could from that. And then logically, nobody was speaking logic. Logically,
right.
Deriving.
Ayn Rand was, and that's who he quotes all the time.
There you go. Yeah. Ayn Rand, in philosophy, that was he loved her, and he also loved her writings. And by the way, if you haven't ever read or you watched the movie Atlas Shrugged, or even The Fountainhead,
I don't know about that movie, but the book's good.
Well, I'm saying for sure. Okay, there's certain aspects of society that we've seen some of that come true over the course of, that was presented in Atlas Shrugged, that some of those aspects of, government and society.
The government in Atlas Shrugged is basically the Biden administration.
And
absolutely screwing everything up everywhere. Everything they touch turns to shit.
Everything that we went through in 2020, 2021, right? All of that.
Amazing how far back you go. And I've read excerpts of that book to some of my friends, and they're like, when was this written?
Right. Like 40s.
1940s. And they're like, sounds like right now.
You can go on Netflix or Amazon Prime or any one of those, Hulu, and you'll find the movie Atlas Shrugged. It's a 4-part movie. And I've actually trained one of the actors, Jason Begay. He's in like part 2 or part 3. So they have the movie, and because they shot the different aspects of the movie separated by a couple of years, they use different actors. Okay. So all 4 parts, you have different, or all 3 parts, you have different actors. And Jason Begay plays Henry Reardon in one of the parts. But anyway, I'm going off the rails right here.
Yes. Mike and his philosophy. If somebody's going to watch this video, they know about Mike and they know about his philosophy.
Sure.
I want to dispel a couple of the things that people, use to criticize him. Like,
please.
And I mean, I have some significant contact and relationships with some people in the Air Force. And one thing I notice about the Air Force, especially, I don't know about now, but in some relatively recent history, the Air Force has been very, well, they don't hide it. They don't advertise it, but they give pilots amphetamines. And it was, hey, you got to stay awake. You're flying a jet for, how about recently, 36 hours it took to fly to Iran from Minnesota. By the way, it's so badass that we can take off.
Badass, man.
Drop the hammer on some idiots in the middle of the desert on the other side of the world and then fly home. Awesome. Yeah, I cannot celebrate that enough. Mike, what's the story?
Okay, so he
was in the Air Force, by the way. That's why.
He was in the Air Force as well. You're right. He served in the Air Force, but as a pro bodybuilder in 1979 through 1980, 1981, it was rather common use of amphetamines. Baseball players, of course, use them all the time. Yeah, but greenies, right. Home greenies. And so a lot of them who, some of them suffered from addiction eventually from that. But Mike, the story, and this is both, it's not both, this is straight from his mouth. He told me himself. The day came where, number one, he was in love. The phrase is, he said, John, I was in love with being productive. That was his thing. Okay. He didn't want to go to sleep. He literally would train, eat, do cardio, write articles, study, read philosophy, his whole day he had scheduled out, and then sleep would be a little sliver on the end right there. And it was just enough to keep him from getting nuts. But then he said to me, he goes, John, and I remember we were sitting at the Rose Cafe in Venice, California, after he trained me. And so we're sitting there and he says to me, he said, you know, John, the day that I read, that I studied up on amphetamines and I saw that the number one side effect of the amphetamines was psychosis. He said, I said the words, well, this will never happen to me. I have much too firm a grasp of my faculty. And he said, the moment I said that, I should have checked myself into the hospital because that meant I was already gone. Mm-hmm. I was listening to another voice in my head at that moment. Psychosis had already grabbed a hold of him.
It's important for everybody to know that 30 years ago, I mean, that's when Adderall was being put out.
Developed.
It was like, oh, amphetamines are like the future. We're just going to give up on caffeine and we're all going to take this other thing. And yeah, boy, that didn't go well, but nobody knew that back then.
Good point. Really good point.
There's a lot of amazing advancements that were supposed to change the world. And they really didn't do that.
So in his case, the interesting part was that, he tells the story, he went off the rails psychosis wise. And that was, in the early 80s, around 83, 84, he started going off the rails big time. Mm-hmm. And his brain, there was something thrown off. And, when you find yourself living in a gutter, there's a problem. And people got him the right kind of help. He would end up in the hospital several times, mental institutions. And then it was the whole second half of the 80s was a blur to him. He doesn't remember.
That's just sad because people trash him today for that. And it's it has nothing to do with his bodybuilding philosophy. You're just trying to trash the guy.
That's right. We might as well, you might as well turn your light switch off because Thomas Edison also had a cocaine issue. So if you really want to.
So stop using light bulbs.
Yeah, that silly thing called light, in your house. You should shut that off because, some drug addict developed it. It can't be real, right? So after all that, right? Einstein's theory of relativity, Einstein was also into coke, so, right?
I mean, these are all ad hominem attacks.
Yes.
So it's I notice people who cannot argue with me on a scientific basis, they say ridiculous shit about me. I have a fake degree, which is not true.
Yeah.
But they still say it all the time.
Right.
And it's when the personal attacks come out, and this is part of the reason why Trump won the election, because all his opposition could do is mention personal stuff about him. He's a bad guy. He's bad with women. He's bad with kids, even though he babysits Elon's kid.
Exactly.
It's there's no evidence, or there's very selective evidence.
Right.
All these things, but they were all just personal attacks. It's okay, well, great. Considering we're not electing him to be the babysitter of your kid.
Right.
How about what his policies are? Are they good? And
exactly.
They weren't even willing to talk about that. Which is the same thing when somebody criticizes me, oh, he has a fake degree, or, oh, he's on steroids. No, I'm not.
Right.
I mean, I take TRT. I've been very open about that, which is not the same as being natural, by the way.
Very good. I like that you said that.
Yeah, it's just not the same.
Yeah. And so, look, those are great points because relatively speaking, when Mike got out of the hospital at one point, his brother Ray was also a Mr. America, and he didn't win the Mr. Universe, but he's a pro bodybuilder. He won the Mr. America. They're the only brothers in history that ever won the Mr. America. Ray, helped him out when he got on out, and Mike came on out of the hospital for the last time. He decided he was not going back to this nonsense again, the way he told the story, and he got his life together. And so he didn't go back to the drugs. Much to certain people's claims that, once a drug addict, always a drug addict. Well, no, it's not quite true. There's some people that go clean.
You're always in recovery.
That's true. But going back to the drugs, it doesn't mean it doesn't fall into recidivism. Everybody's keep on falling back into it over and over again. It doesn't happen to everybody. And so he was one of the ones that he knew, here we are again, we're at the Rose Cafe. He's ordering, yes, can I have a cup of coffee? Please make that half decaf, please. He'd look at me and he'd go, no reason to be poking at the bear, John, like this, because he wouldn't even want the caffeine. He wouldn't even want a full cup of coffee, right? You see?
Yeah, so I'm glad you dispelled that myth, because it's just a way to attack a man who isn't even alive to defend himself.
True.
And it also has nothing to do with his training philosophy. You just want to trash somebody.
100% true. And,
These people are just garbage.
Garbage. But look, most of them will also make a point and say, well, yeah, John Hart, you were his friend. You're biased. Of course, you're going to defend your friend. He's not here to do it. But look, that doesn't negate the fact that I'm spitting out facts, that I'm telling truth. Okay. So factually, truthfully, he went clean. And for the rest of the days that I knew him all through the 1990s, straight through early 90s, all the way to his death in 2001. We trained people out of the same gym for the late 90s into 2000, 2001. So we were at Angel City Fitness in Marina Del Rey. It was a little gym, had a ton of Nautilus equipment, by the way. And so I saw him on a daily basis, and I hung out with him still. I lived in Playa del Rey. I hung out with him regularly. So the man was not, was he quirky? Was he different? Yeah. People say it all the time that knew him from when he was a pro bodybuilder to when he became a little bit older, that he was just different. Well, yeah, his brain was changed. That doesn't mean the intellect or the logic was not sound. Okay. The logic was sound. Mike's reasoning when it came to training. And I remember it's almost like he only had like 2 bullets in the chamber. Okay. And I say this lovingly, of course, but 2 bullets in the chamber, meaning his answer to somebody not making progress. Okay. Invariably, there were always 2 bullets in the chamber and then a third, which you just mentioned. Remind me about the testosterone. Number 1 was take more days off. That was one answer. No progress. Take more days off. You're overtrained. Number 2, eat more calories. Whoa.
Yeah. Eat more
protein. Fat city, man. I'm talking fat.
So he got people fat.
Fat city. And yes, he did.
Calories don't make you big. Protein makes you big. Calories make you fat.
I'm with you. And so the majority of the people from that time who did, in fact, who were at Gold's Gym in Venice, who were at Angel City Fitness, where I was, as well as Gold's at one point, they're in denial if they don't bring up the fact that, look, his workouts, while they were good and they worked really well, certain ones worked extremely well. However, his clients all got fat. Not all of them, but the ones who did certain kinds of workouts that were not making progress, they got fat. And that didn't matter whether they were on drugs or enhanced or not. It didn't matter. They all got fat. And so the third, or I say half bullet, so the one was take more days off. Number 2 was increase your calories. The third bullet, and he would rarely use this one, was he would say, if those first 2 didn't work, he'd tell them, go get your testosterone levels checked. That was number 3 to him. So he would send them off and go and get a blood test and check their panel and see, it's not as if, it's not as if he even knew the relationship between SHBG and free testosterone, for example, right? It's not like he even knew that. He would just look at, do they have high testosterone?
He used anabolics while he was training. He knows they work. So
yeah. And so there would be a question that would come up at that point of, well, if they wanted to grow, then, the question would come up. You can choose to use anabolics or not, or just deal with the fact that you don't have those kind of genes at this point to grow any more muscle, because he believed 100% that his training, people say, he said his training was the only way to train. That's not true. He said his training was the only logical way to train. Don't forget that word. If you don't, that's why I was so lit up when you used it.
That's a direct quote from Arthur. And they worked together.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I'm pointing out that he never claimed his was the only way to train. It was the only logical place to start your experiment.
He even said the most muscular person he ever met was in the Air Force. And he walked up to him and started asking him about his cycle.
Right.
Like,
that was natural.
Steroid cycle. Yep. And the guy's like, oh, I don't ride a bike.
Right.
He's very confused in this conversation. He's like, cycle? I don't have a bicycle.
Right.
And then Mike's just like, dude, what?
Yeah.
And it turns out the guy didn't even train.
Right. Yeah. You're just gifted. There are behemoths among us. Okay. There are behemoths among us. And so one thing I'd like to mention too is that in the last several years, to their credit, people have really thrashed the millennial crowd as well as the Gen, what are we on now? Z or Y? I don't know where we at.
But I mean,
Gen Z?
is I think over 20.
Okay, like 20 to 30. Yeah. So that crowd, people thrash them as being lazy. They thrash them as being, uninspired, all of those things. However, the majority of my subscribers on my channel and in my social media are between 24 and 40. So they all, what are they doing on my channel? And the majority of my subscribers are that. So it's not people my age. What are they doing? When Mentzer started getting popular again in social media back around 2021, 22. So the algorithms picked up on them and it started just a flurry hit. A whole bunch of audio files were thrown out there and the algorithms picked them up and redistributed them really well. That one group, I have to credit that young group. Let's call them 20 to 40. That young group, age group, they are thinking, at least, I'll give them some credit for thinking somewhat logically, somewhat by listening to Mentzer, but there may be a little element of being a little bit lazy, not wanting to do too much and all that, because training as little as possible, right? So wanting as much as possible for as little investment. There we go.
I just said this on another video I was shooting. There's no merit badge you get for white knuckling it through life. Like, if you can stack the deck to make things a little bit easier for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're quitting smoking cigarettes, are you a pussy if you get a nicotine patch or chew nicotine gum? No.
Good point. Yeah.
No, I mean, the tools are out there. Use them.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. And I mean, that can be applied a different way. And this is a very controversial take I'm going to throw at you right now. A lot of people have been really down on the GLP peptides. It's terrible. Like, you never want to go down that path. Like, and
saving lives.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people have the same view of steroids. So yeah, makes sense. However, biochemical engineering was used against us to make food super addictive.
There we go.
In all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, they even print it right on the bag. You can't eat just one. I haven't had a Dorito chip in probably 15 years, but I could describe what they taste like. I remember.
Good point.
I remember because they're good. They taste good, and it's an addictive formula. Like, they're trying to get us hooked. I mean, this is why R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris specifically, bought snack food companies because they got caught making cigarettes addictive. So now they'll just make food addictive.
Yes.
A lot more people eat food than smoke cigarettes. So it seemed like a better business model.
Yes.
So if biochemical engineering got us here, maybe biochemical engineering can get us out. And also, from the perspective of, let's say we have three things. We have hormones, peptides, and pharmaceuticals that don't fall into either of those two categories. So a chemical not found in nature.
Right.
If you're going to look to something for help, a hormone, which your body already makes, and a peptide, which your body already makes, is probably, just from an engineering perspective, less likely to have a real negative impact on you.
Yes.
Otherwise, your body doesn't make a lot of things that kill you.
Right.
Right. In fact, like a lot of the more recent theories on cancer, it has a lot to do with the hormones you have based on your depression, your stress, and your frustration. You go always chronically high cortisol. Like, these people have higher instances of all types of cancer. Well,
right.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it's not, because of whatever the environmental thing is that gets blamed, whether it's asbestos or whatever. That actually is a bad one, but there's some that are blamed that I just go, really? Yeah. We have enough evidence for that? So, right. Yeah. And so I think you need to consider, that maybe those other things, while not natural, they're not the worst thing in the world. Like I think doing steroid cycles is a bad idea because it's out of control.
Yeah, it's out of control. That's right.
But testosterone replacement therapy, if you need it, boy, does it help.
Saves lives. I say it again, saves lives. It keeps some men from
extend your life.
Well, I'm saying it in a way. I'm saying it in this way. It keeps some men from blowing their brains out.
Sure. I mean, it does positively affect all-cause mortality. You live longer if you're a guy on TRT, statistically.
Wow. We may have to talk in the future then. So what I want to also get across too is, listen, I want to also put this out too, that I'm directly associated with Mike Mentzer, and historically I am. It's part of my story. It's part of his story. And I'm happy to be that way. However, I want even the viewers on your channel to know that I never saw him. I don't see him even today as God. You know, some people they deify some of these people who we remember from the past. And I don't do that. And I am one of those guys that I do believe that a great teacher would rather enjoy seeing their student surpass anything they did or go further or take what they did and go further with it in some ways. And the irony, I shared this with you a couple weeks ago, that one of the people from my training community, I have an exclusive training community. One of them did a fun chat GPT comparison.
Oh yeah, comparing your program to Mentzer's program, but cross-referenced it with your research.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And it's like you said, like we have the benefit of better science now.
And so that's exactly it, is that, you know, there are those people who do deify Mike that to this day, you know, I had a few comments that were nasty and saying, who do you think you are? I did a video on it, of course, because they handed me this content, right? Of course I'm going to do a video on this. Yeah. But, you know, they deify him to such an extent that, you know, they see it as sacrilegious for me to even compare or to mention it, you know. It's fun. It's fun.
If you have any fans, there will be a percentage that will hate pretty much anything. Just one of your videos, like they'll be like, "That son of a bitch, I could eat it." Like, all right.
So let me recommend to everybody. I want to recommend that if they do want to get a hold or learn more of actual Mike Mentzer teachings, and don't get caught up in the weeds, okay? Because we are in 2025 and we have certain things like AI generated images, voice, audio, all of that some of them it's just not real, okay? But do you want the real deal? Well, seek out and find his original works, okay? You'll see a book from 1980 called The Mentzer Method to Fitness. You'll see Heavy Duty 1. That's a white cover book with a picture of Mike on the cover. You'll see Heavy Duty 2. Oh, good. Yeah. Heavy Duty 2, Mind and Body. It's a black cover book. And that one was probably one of the best ones he ever had written in 1990. It's an excellent book. Written in 1996. And that one kind of pulls all of what we've talked about today, John. His logic and his reasoning and the reasons why he adjusted workouts a certain way and played with the variables, you know. It's funny because
in a way, that book, I actually remember like filling out the card.
Yes.
Like, you know, it was like a postcard and you like fill it out.
Mail it in.
It was delivered to my fraternity house.
Good. There you go. Mm-hmm. Hold on to that. It's a collector's item. It's worth a lot. Mm-hmm. And what I'll say is all of the supposed writings, including High Intensity Training, the Mike Mentzer Way that you'll find with some out there today, those were books that he did not finish that. He died before it was final edit and finally put out. Mm-hmm. So stick with the ones that you know.
Don't forget the Heavy Duty Journal.
And the Heavy Duty Journal, that comes from, he wrote that. I
have that one too. And that was like probably the funniest one because he just kind of rambles in it.
Yeah.
And like you see, like his diet was awful.
Just pancakes, syrup, an apricot. I mean, there were 1,200 calories. A day before the Mr. Olympia, he's eating 900 calories. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Crazy. So, but you said it once, right? You did say once that if you're going to eat the carbs, and I experienced this myself. Okay, some of my clients know this, and some of the people who followed me over the years, I experienced it myself. If you're going to eat the carbs, which I have done, you're going very low in those calories in order to get that fat off. You will be hardly eating any food. It's not enjoyable, and it does take an extreme amount of discipline to do that. That's quite different from having a nice amount of protein. And actually, I can feel a thermogenic effect when I ingest 50, 60 grams of protein plus. It actually lights me up. So it's easier remaining lean and getting leaner doing that too. So that's the other thing.
Thermogenic effect of food. There's just a study that came out. I'll have to dig to find it because I didn't save it. I didn't find it particularly like I'm going to reference this all the time kind of thing. But one meal a day is massive with thermic effect of food.
Wow.
You spread the same amount of calories out, you don't get a thermic effect. Or you get a much lessened thermic effect, which means more of it gets stored.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Really interesting. You're like my cliff notes on all these studies that are coming out right now. I do appreciate that. I hope the listener appreciates it too. So, stick with.
I throw stuff like this out all the time.
It's awesome. So my last bit of advice on Mike Mentzer, stick with the actual written works that he wrote himself. He edited. Those are the books I just mentioned. Anything, if it's not those 3 books, Mentzer Method to Fitness from 1980, a heavy duty white cover that was around 1992 or 3. And then 1996, heavy duty 2, Mind and Body. Those books right there will get you as much information that Mike ever really had. Everything beyond that has been speculative. Everything beyond that has been AI generated. Everything beyond that has been, well, there have been some things in seminars that he contradicted himself many times in seminars too. So that is true. But stick with those books if you want to learn the most. But that's it, Doc.
Thanks, John. All right.
Well, appreciate you.
We will do this again. Awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much.
If this video helped you, I want you to subscribe and follow. I'm going to put out videos on a regular basis. I think they're going to help a whole lot of people, especially if you're one of those people that doesn't just instantly grow from lifting regular weights. We've got the answer for you.